How many of you have heard about GDPR? Okay, so wow, that's great. I asked the very same question a few hours ago in Brussels downtown, and it was 1 person out of 20 who heard about it, so that's great. Before I start, I just wanted to mention one thing. If we are here today, and if there are so many women today, it's because of Meetup. And it's because of Evan Estola, who is a guy working at Meetup and who presented last year in Boston some of the models they are using to recommend new events to Meetup members. And they are taking some variables out of the models to make sure that there is no bias. So if women get recommended technical things, technical events, that's because the gender variable is taken out of the model. And they do that on purpose, just to avoid biases. So, very important. So many women, that's just amazing. Thank you so much for being there. I feel like Donald Trump, so amazing, amazing, amazing. Let's do it. We're going to do it bigly. Okay, so why do we need some more ethical algorithms? The first reason is we need to trust. We need to trust companies. And do you guys trust companies which behave badly? Personally, I don't. And yet, those behaviors, those airlines you have seen. So here, that's Uber, which monitors the level of your battery and which is able to increase the price when they see that your battery is low, because your sensitivity to price is going down. Very important. Here, that's something that that was revealed in France last year by the French newspaper Libération. And the governments thought that it was a good idea to code an algorithm, because it was neutral, to select people going to universities. It was a very bad idea. Turned out because, well, deans were using that algorithm, were tweaking that algorithm to select the people they wanted in their universities and rejecting the other. That's an ethical problem. Here, something which was revealed also last year in Boston, Orbit, which screened which people were using Mac computers to propose them some more expensive travel products. Or here, the Uber prices that went up last week or 2 weeks ago in London during the attacks. Okay, and this one is, that's freaking. Ancestry.com, so when you want to do a blood test and a DNA test, you send them something out of your body, and in their terms and conditions, they say that it belongs to them. So your DNA belongs to them. That's something crazy. Okay. The good thing is there is GDPR coming, yeah? And because algorithms are not neutral, remember, they are designed for a goal, they are designed by a group of people who have biases. You remember all that story with the Google algorithm that was detecting monkeys instead of black people. I don't think that's very good for black people. Algorithm use data without knowledge of the context, and that's exactly what happened there. And sometimes automated data treatment may pose some ethical threats too. So I will come back to what Neil Hunt said in 2014 at the RecSys keynote. And some of the technical limitations I see for algorithms are, first of all, that, well, in terms of image recognition, you have a less than perfect image recognition, so it can lead to the limitations that we have seen. And the vision behind the algorithm sometimes leads also to problems. So we have the filter bubbles problem. We have gender inequity problems. In insurance, you have all the personalization versus risk sharing problem. What we are adding to, anybody here in the insurance sector? Okay, be proud of it. Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, Thomas. What insurance companies are heading towards is getting some very personal biometric data from you to measure the risk that you're representing from the company. So this is an ethical problem, because if we go into that direction, it means that in the end, we may have some so personalized insurance that the risk will not be shared among the society as it was before. So all our model, our insurance model, will just fall apart. Yeah? And obviously you have all the commercial goals that also threatens the vision behind the algorithm and the greater good vision of the algorithm. And here once again what Neil Hunt said, Netflix metrics cannot distinguish between an enriched life and addiction. Yeah? If someone watched 10 hours of movies on Netflix, it doesn't make him or her a better person. Just make a junkie out of him. But for Netflix, that's good because that person has a higher likelihood to renew his subscription the next month, right? Okay, GDPR. What is GDPR? Well, that's exactly that. Yeah, they want to make us move. I was meeting with the Commission yesterday, and the director in charge of that project at the European Commission exactly said, well, we want to scare people. We want to scare companies so that they adopt a different code of conduct. And what is scary in GDPR? Well, the only thing that is scary in GDPR are the fines. Yeah, it's 4% of your turnover or 20 million euros. And those of you who think that GDPR will not be enforced in May 2018 or that fines are not going to be paid or asked are wrong, because that's the only thing that the Commission has as a weapon to make things move and bad practices stop. Okay, got that? Very good. So let's look at 4 points out of the GDPR that I think are very important. The first point I call what the hell is going on. And that's about transparency, because transparency is something that we have some difficulties to achieve today. And yet it's in Article 13(2)(f). People are entitled to ask the data collector, the data processor, what kind of data is collected. So that's not new. That's already been in the law for like 25 years, since '92. But now they have also the right to ask how that data is processed and what kind of mechanism is applied to handle the data to come to the desired output. That is new. Let's play fair. That's the responsibility and accountability. So there is the principle of fairness, which is now in the GDPR, and it was not before, so that's a big change. The don't look over my shoulder principle, so that's a privacy by design, something that should already be in our systems and which I see not very often. And the give me a break, which is the right to erasure or the portability, data portability concept. So I'm not going to go through the 4 of them, just going quickly to let's play fair and don't look over my shoulder. And I will explain you also in some details what we are doing at RTBF, because I'm working at RTBF, to implement those principles. We have been busy with GDPR for more than a year. There was less than a year until May 2018. And if you have not started yet, I think it's already too late, because if you want to change all your systems, that's going to be a big deal. So let's play fair. Okay? The number 2. First of all, you have to do impact assessments. So you have to assess the data you're collecting, assess the risks that is represented by those data, and all the security, safety measures that you have to put in place to make sure that data doesn't leak and that the data is processed fairly. The principle of fairness is also there. You have to be ethical. The Commission actually even recommends that you have a code of conduct for your algorithms and that you have a council or a body within your company to control and assess what you are doing. I was talking at the CPDP conference earlier this year in January with the AXA Chief Data Officer from France, and they have hired 4 or 5 people, one of them from the CNIL, to assess what they are doing and to assess, for instance, the level of granularity of the data they're collecting and to even change the data they're collecting to not infringe on the rights of people. And you remember, as Michael rightly said, there are no neutral algorithms. That does not exist. So you just remove that out of your heads. That does not exist. So the vision that you have, the biases that are in you, will be reflected in the algorithms, will be reflected, for instance, in the recommender systems that we will be building. Okay, so what are we doing at RTBF? The first thing that we are doing is we have set up ethical rules to design our recommender systems. So there is a vision behind the design of the algorithms. And one of the visions, for instance, is that we want to focus not on exploitation, but rather on exploration. So if we see that someone is consuming only videos on soccer, for instance, at a certain point we will not recommend only soccer videos. We will try to open up his or her horizons, and we will try to recommend something else. Cultural things, information things. So different categories of contents that we have also available on our website, but that those people are not used to watch, to listen to, or to read. And very important, there is a philosophical concept behind everything what we are doing, and that's documented in the specifications that I wrote. And that concept is a concept of deliberative democracy. So we were assisted in drafting the specifications by academics who explain us the different types of democracy, because we are a public service. So we have to serve the greater good. We have to serve you guys, we have to serve the society, and we have to be the mirror of the society. And our society here in Belgium works on the principle of deliberative democracy. People have to be autonomous, and they have the right of choosing. They have the right to quality of information, and they have also the right to debate around things. We have to respect minorities. We have to respect marginalized groups. We have to respect gender equity. So if we see, for instance, that someone is consuming too much of Caucasian male content, it is our duty to make sure that that person gets recommended something else. Some more women-related content, not Caucasian content. Because everything what people consume must be the reflection of the society we live in. Otherwise, we give a false image, a wrong image of the society we live in. And we, as a public broadcaster, we have the duty to be the reflection of the society. And obviously, we also need or must promote alternative viewpoints to provoke the debate and make sure that people also reflect about different opinions and make their own opinions. That was point 2. Now point 3, don't look over my shoulder. So that's the privacy by design. And I think that's the worst point, or the least understood point of all in the GDPR. So what is the underlying concern? The Commission says, well, all what we're doing now is being traced. We are leaving traces, we are leaving all kind of information behind us when we are on websites, when we are surfing, when we are consuming things. Is it what we want? That information is being consumed, is being used, is being monetized by other types of companies. But is this something which is respectful of our privacy? It's not. So if we want to still have the right to privacy, all websites, all digital systems we are using in our daily lives should be built with that principle of privacy by design. If I want to consume something, I have the right not to have any infringement on my privacy, okay? So when you are, for instance, placing cookies on the computer of people visiting your websites, that's an infringement if that person has not understood what that cookie does to her or to him, okay? One question, for instance, that you have to ask yourself is, do you block or degrade your service if users refuse to being tracked? A problem that appeared last year on the build.de website, where they were blocking access because people had ad blockers. So we understand that that's their business model, and that they leave from all people leaving their food tracks on the website. But if you do that, if you degrade the service, then it will be unlawful from May 2018. And is blocking degradation of the service justified? Can you serve customers differently? So how are we addressing that at RTBF? So we are heading towards more personalization. The reason is very simple. We are producing 300 articles a day. We are producing like 15 hours of video every single day and 30 hours of audio. What we observe is that 99% of the consumption of a media happens in the first 48 hours after a media has been published. And after 48 hours, that media is not being consumed anymore. Because there is so much volume, so adding on top of that, that people are unable to find that content back, although it might be interesting to them. So personalization helps finding that content back and bringing that content back to the user, which is a greater service, a better service for the user. So that's in our mission. Yet, if we do not want to infringe on the right to privacy of our users, we need to reflect on a system that allows or not personalization without tracking people too much. So what we are going to do by the end of this year is, by May 2018, is putting an on-off switch on our home pages so that people, if they do not want to be tracked, if they do not want to get content recommended, they just have to switch off the button, and that's everything what they have to do. And then they won't be tracked anymore, and they won't get recommendations anymore. Today, if you think about Facebook, Facebook is a giant recommender system. Everything that appears in your timeline has been selected, carefully selected by an algorithm. Actually, you see only 10% of what your friends publish, only 10%. So 90% of the content published by your friends is just put away. Do you have any way to switch off that recommender system? Do you? No. On LinkedIn, do you have any way? No, you don't. Okay, so there is no privacy by design. You have no right to the full information. That's a problem. And if people want to get some content recommended without leaving tracks behind them, without our recording their activities, we will give them the possibility to just select a dummy profile, like sport fan or culture fan or something like this, that will help them, well, get in the shoes of someone else without getting a fully personalized recommender system working on them. Okay, so let's build now better recommendation algorithms, and here are my few recommendations. So what I think is GDPR is really the kick in the ass we needed to start reflecting about ethics. And I was discussing with Michael just before we came, and there is no such law in the US. There is no such piece of law in the US that allows the protection of people's privacy. We have a unique chance in Europe. Not only do we have a law, which describes pretty largely everything what can be done and what cannot be done, but that piece of legislation is valid for all Europe, for 27 countries, or 26 when the English people are away. Okay, so that's pretty unique, and we should make use of it. That's an advantage. That can become actually a competitive advantage. That's at least how the Commission sees it. They say that's an opportunity you have to seize if you want to remain competitive, because the world will go towards more privacy and toward more respectful algorithms. So enough black boxes, enough opaque recommendation mechanisms. Ethics must be built within from the beginning, and here I agree with Michael. There is not enough taught on ethics, and that should be integrated in computer science course. Users' education is key. We have to raise awareness, and well, I think that workshop today, that meetup, is a good way to raise that awareness, so we should do that more often. And the last question is, why do we focus so much on exploitation, and why don't we reflect or think about exploring more? That's not only useful in the broadcasting industry, that's only useful perhaps, that could be also useful in the retail industry, where people have very strong habits, and that could be interesting to explore what other types of stuff people may want to buy that may differ from their buying patterns. Okay, and that's all. Thank you so much for your attention. If there is any question, then I will be very happy to take them. So, Michael has the first question. You mentioned the obligation you feel that the recommenders promote real alternative viewpoints. What does the process look like for deciding what is a real alternative viewpoint versus what is out of bounds, and who is involved in that process? Okay, so we are public service. So everything what is produced on our website is produced by journalists who have an ethical code. Okay, so what we are trying to do then is, well, or what we will be trying to do with the algorithms when they are in place, is to take different type of articles, different type of videos, and proposing them to the person. So here, the alternative viewpoint is not only left-wing or right-wing. That may be just, you know, you are used to sport, as I said before, and we are trying to propose you an alternative content, an alternative type of video. So instead of always recommending sport, you will be recommended culture, you will be recommended politics, or you will be recommended something else. That's the way we want to recommend something alternative.
Great presentation. As a public sender, you probably have the ability to take a little bit more of a moral high ground in this discussion because you're publicly funded and because the objectives are a little bit further than just pushing content. So I would say, could the recommendations go even beyond what to watch next, but maybe what to do next? In the sense, like maybe turn after a football match, have a chat with your wife instead of trying to do something else, or you know, after binge watching Twin Peaks or whatever, to go out and actually have a walk in the forest or something. Don't you think that for the greater public good, that could be the potential range of recommendations could grow?
So I will give two answers. First part of my answer is yes, as a public service. This is our mission to be, indeed, as I said, the reflection of the society. And so, can you imagine actually that the principle of recommending something, when I arrived in 2015, was not accepted by the parliament and was not accepted by the government. They thought that recommending something to users, to citizens, was something which was contrary to the principle of public service. So we had to fight with the government, with the parliament, to make them make them accept the idea that recommender systems can actually benefit users and make part of our mission. So that's, well, the first part of my answer.
It comes into nudge theory.
Yeah.
Giving the right message.
Exactly. Then on the second thing, yeah, we want actually to recommend not only online content, but offline something. The recommender systems we're building are not based on video, audio, and text files. They are based on the notion of objects. So we will be able, by the end of this year, to recommend contests, online contests, events, online events, offline events. We are organizing, sponsoring some 1,000 events a year. So yes, we are able to, or we will be able to promote and to recommend something else. And perhaps the next best it, or the most likely event or piece of content object to be consumed is not a video. That's not Twin Peaks. That's an event, an offline event that is taking place next to you. Perhaps that's the Meetup event, something like this. Your hobby is A, and we have detected that there is a Meetup on A next to your door. Then we should recommend that so that you come close to people. And then you have a real debate. It's very important. Yeah?
Yeah. I have a question. You're a public broadcasting company, but you obviously also use Facebook to post videos and stuff like that. Recently, Facebook started adding ads into the video. Are you aware whether it is also the case with public broadcasting companies that they also do that?
So we are not posting videos on Facebook. There may be some exceptions, but what we are doing is we're posting hyperlinks on Facebook so that people go back to our website. So that it's not in our strategy to give any piece of content to Facebook or to Twitter. We want people to come back to our website. So there is no video of such kind. Perhaps there are some exceptions, but it's not in the.
So you don't add like native videos?
No. No, well, there may be some exceptions, but that's not in the strategy of RTBF. If you do that, you just contribute to the success of Facebook. Yeah, you're just squandering your money.
It could be the view of your content, the view of your. I mean, Facebook is the biggest world agency of commercials. I mean, advertising, so they advertise you for free.
Yes, we could, but that's not part of the strategy. Any other questions? Yeah, that will be the last one, then we will go to Joran.
To what extent is, when you gave the example of a Caucasian guy watching Caucasian things or whatever, and you proposed to have a recommending system that is doing the opposite, aren't you actually on a thin line? Because if you look at the story of Cambridge Analytica with Trump and, well, more the black people who are most likely voting for Clinton, they got the opposite videos in which Clinton was saying bad things towards black people. So then you're very much into influencing people.
Well, maybe Michael wants to answer that question. No, he doesn't. Well, I think the difference, the very difference is the vision behind that. So Donald Trump, who's a mean guy, by the way, he was doing that, or Clinton were doing that for certain goals, which were to be elected. We are doing that not to be elected or not for commercial goals. I mean, we are not making money. We get 75% of our funding from the taxes. We are recommending something else. We are trying to nudge or to do different kinds of recommendations just to make sure that people get a sense of the reality of the society they are living in. If you live in Uccle, I don't know whether you're from Brussels or not, but if you live in Uccle, the likelihood is high that you will not be very much aware of the reality of the society. You are not very much aware that there is 13% of the people in Belgium who are not Belgian. Yeah? Although if you live in Molenbeek, if you live here in that area, you could be very much more aware of that. So that's our mission, that's our duty, to make sure that people get exposed to that reality. What they do afterwards, that's something else. But at least we should make sure that they get exposed to that reality.
But in my reality, for instance, Hillary Clinton has always told the truth. So I've never been exposed to her sayings that black people are bad. And thanks to Trump, now I know about it. So that's for the better good.
Okay, so in that case, that was that was a very positive consequence of the network. Maybe that's the only one. Maybe that's the only. Okay, thank you so much.